Once I see your life, so much pain, warring divides, it's a shame, we don't see how it can be. Oh, we need to smile at each other, wish for your brother, help one another, all we need is love. Oh, we need to honor our mother, shelter our sisters, all to existence, God's help.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Y Factor on 87.6 FM. You are listening to Jamel on the mic with Mohamed.
Jamel, just cut that out. Let's just get down to business, all right? I'm sick of your personality changes every week.
I like to remain interesting like that, you know. The strange and the weird, that seems to apply to me a lot. I eat plants and, I mean, you know, apart from the ordinary vegetables and so forth,
Okay, yeah, I eat grass. I can't say anything there. My mum feeds me grass from the backyard. It's like that Lebanese grass you throw on your food.
Guess we make a good team then. You know, both a bit strange, both a bit funny, but...
the quirky gentleman from the Y Factor.
Yes.
Hold on, Jamel. I've got a international call coming in right now. We're going to take it, all right? I'm just going to take it and we'll see what happens. Hello?
I think it's Arnie. Hello, Arnie, you there?
Hello, how are you doing?
Oh, good, not too bad. Did you listen to the show last week?
I did, and it was great. I really liked it.
Great to hear, Arnie. How's being governor of California, how's that going for you?
I'm finding it not too bad, but a step up would be the presidency, which I'm going to try for in the coming months and so forth.
Really? That's very ambitious. Are you going to become the governator and assassinate, President
and
Obama?
And the presidentator as well, yeah.
All right, Arnie, we've got to go. Just like to give a shout out to the Y Factor before you leave.
Well, listen in each week, my listeners, and you always get good news.
Wow, thank you very much, Arnold.
And don't eat my cookies.
And just mention don't take steroids for
And
those.
don't take steroids. It is not good for you.
Okay, guys. Thanks a lot, Arnie. That line's just been cut out. We got 5 minutes of his time. He's a very busy man.
The Y Factor.
So one of the biggest news out there right now today is... Oh, sorry, not today. In the last week or so is the death of the great Steve Jobs, who happens to be half Syrian. Woo!
No, don't be that typical Muslim that wants to claim, these great people as being, of Muslim descent.
He's probably an undercover Muslim, really.
Yeah, apparently he was reading to, Islam before he passed away on his iPad.
That's our little, news piece that no one else knew about. But his dad, apparently, his biological father was Syrian with a Muslim name, Abdul Fattah. But unfortunately, he also is a co-owner of a casino. But hey, half Syrian. Woo!
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, Steve Jobs did a fair bit.
Apple creator
for the world. Yeah, he reshaped pretty much the industry. And when he got, it's surprising to know, if you don't know, to our listeners out there, that he actually got fired from Apple and then rehired in 1997. In that week that he got actually rehired, Apple was pretty much going to fall in complete bankruptcy, and they were in heaps of debt. So within that 1 week, he reshaped and restored the entire company. So Apple went from being in 1997, the company that's about to, fall into complete bankruptcy, to one of the largest companies in the world today.
Isn't that amazing?
Sure is, and he's a visionary, so it makes a lot of sense.
Some of the most awesome stuff that I read on people's, because I'm not particularly a massive Apple fan, although I do like some of their products, and their style is pretty funky. But some of the awesome stuff about Steve Jobs was his quotes, his very deep and meaningful sort of things that he said, And that sort of gave me a whole new respect for him, because I didn't know anything about it until after he actually died.
Yeah, one of his interesting quotes was when he said that innovation is the distinction between a leader and a follower.
Yeah. Is this good innovation? Or
okay, look, just in general...
The bid'ah type of innovation?
Well, from a Muslim perspective, it could be, bid'ah is the difference between heaven and hell. So, no biggie, but we can play it by ear.
Something along those lines. But one thing that I've really noticed is, man, how many famous people have died in the last couple of years? You had Heath Ledger, you had Steve Owen, you had Peter Brock, you have Steve Jobs.
Michael Jackson,
man, king of pop. just goes to show it doesn't matter how famous you are or how powerful you are. I mean, even Gaddafi and Mubarak are out now. They're not dead yet, but they're out. Doesn't matter how
politically.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how much money you have, how powerful you are. You can never escape either a downfall or your death. You know, nobody can escape that. And I guess it's the one certainty that we all share. And Steve Jobs always used to talk about that. He was very reflective on death and that.
The Y Factor.
Going on to the next news piece.
So, as you all know, the carbon tax was passed yesterday in Parliament. There were 74 votes in favour and 72 against. So the federal government, meaning the Gillard government and her party, have invited the environment levy, which is the carbon tax, and have won approval from the House of Representatives, and it will come into action with other engagements in Parliament. But nonetheless, it's been passed. So this is big news for all our greenies out there and all the environmentalists.
I guess so, but it's Australia seems to be becoming a very tax friendly country. You know, we've got the GST, we've got a million other taxes, and soon we're to mention the next story, which is coming up, which is university students are now going to be paying a compulsory students fee for the student union, and it's going to be $250 a pop.
Wow.
And that's like, I mean, what do we actually get in return for those who maybe study long distance or study at night time? What services do they actually get? I mean, we're already paying for our textbooks, we're paying for the studies themselves, we don't get free parking. You know, there's all these different fees that we have to pay for, and now they're going to be putting another one on top of that. Maybe it's not so bad for those who actually have money, but for those students who are actually struggling to make ends meet, it's just another pointless expenditure, man.
Yeah, well, it's ironic though. See, the National Union of Students president, her name's Jessie Marshall. Anyway, this is what she said. She said that the revenue raised from this tax, Jamel, will, and I quote, revive student campus services and create a better university experience.
I don't know about that, man. Universities aren't poor. They make plenty of money. Like, why couldn't they just give us plenty of services for free? I mean, we're trying to fight to lower costs towards students, especially to international students, and yet, you know, we're just getting hit in the face with another fee.
That's right, and students in general play a huge role in terms of the economy and the social fabric of Australia, because the graduates from university go on to become the lawyers, the politicians, the doctors, the engineers, the journalists.
Yeah.
And I think that there needs to be greater emphasis placed on students and helping, I guess, easing and enhancing that process, not throwing levy after levy on, you know, our already struggling expenses.
And then once you leave, they ask you to become an alumni to get some more money out of you, and it's
the alumni. You got to admit, it sounds cool though. Alumni sounds cool.
The Y Factor.
As we all know, the young 14-year-old Australian kid was charged after being
in Indonesia for having some marijuana, man.
That's right.
So he had a bit of the wacky tobacco while he was over in Indo. Worst place to have it, man. And God knows the whole story, but the situation is that the Indonesian government is trying to put him into rehabilitation, and if his parents don't come for regular checkups as well, then they'll get chucked in jail for 6 months.
Well, what they're saying is the Indonesian government's saying that he's going to go into a drug rehabilitation program instead of prison.
Yeah.
But what Australian government's trying to call for is that he should be treated in Australia, not in Indonesia.
Well, I just find that quite strange. I mean, you know, what gives Australia precedence over anywhere else? The law is the law. If you shouldn't do the crime, if you can't do the time. And it doesn't matter where you are, you should respect the law of the country.
I don't understand how Australian travellers and backpackers haven't learnt from the Michelle Corby experience.
But then again, the guy, you know, he's like in year 9, year 8. He's 14 years old.
Yeah,
he doesn't know anything, man. So it's
where are his parents? So where are his parents? Because he needs to know, as you said, you know, he's not in Australia. He's not in his local hometown where he can probably get away with it. He's in another country. There's a whole new set of laws. Even stricter laws in Indonesia
of all places. He was probably there on holiday or something. We don't know really.
Well, my issue is where's parental supervision here? And why is he travelling as a 14-year-old in Bali?
The Y Factor.
Okay, some very quick news. Burma has just released 6,300 prisoners. God knows why. The ferry systems are now going to be taken over by it's going to be taken over next year, potentially by the same people who look after our immigration centres, which sounds quite ironic and very strange indeed. But what I found most peculiar, man, is recently we've lost Kellogg's, Kraft, Tollways, Telstra, and now ferries, and not the magical kind, to all these private parties, not the Australian government anymore, or like Australian-owned entities. So I think I'm pretty sure that that's the case for all the ones that I mentioned. But it's like we're losing all of these very Australian products and companies and now our ferries are going to be run by the same guys who look after the bloody detention centres.
I think the axiom on the street is everything has a price, and I think that applies in the bill, especially when they're outsourcing a lot of our Australian companies to overseas for clearly cheaper labour, even child labour in China and some of the Asian nations.
Evidently, it's just all for money.
The Y Factor.
On to some other news now. Tawakkul Karma is the first Yemeni Muslim lady to have won the Nobel Peace Prize. So basically, she stood up against President Saleh, who was trying to oust in Yemen this year. And as a result, she became the first Arab woman ever to win the Peace Prize. And do you know what happens when you win the Peace Prize, Jamel?
You get a whole
African nation. So
who knows what? It's a whole lot of money.
That's right. $10 million worth of money.
Actually, wait, it's not 10 million, is it?
Sorry, it's 10 million business context as well. In krona, which is equivalent to $1.5 million Australian.
That's right.
Or American. Well, there's a difference.
Either way.
And there's also been a huge flood in Mossman over the weekend. It's led to some damage. Jamel, do you want to update us on that?
Yes, at my house, my grandmother, who has Alzheimer's, left the tap on, and it was to the side, so all the water spilt over the sink, not inside the sink, and it ended up flooding the whole entire kitchen and several other parts of the house. So I had to mop the rest of the house. So I've become very domesticated, I think. A domesticated male mopping the floors. My wife will be very happy.
What did your grandma think? This is the funny bit. What did your grandma think when she forgot that she did that, but when she walked out and seen this whole flood of water, what did she think happened?
Well, because she's got Alzheimer's, man, she doesn't know, she can't even remember her own name or where she is or, what some words mean. It's actually kind of sad, but, obviously she had a look of surprise on her face, like, how did that happen?
Well, I'll make it easier on her.
I mean, inshallah, yeah. There's lots of funny stories, but maybe we'll tell them at a later time.
The Y Factor.
The next story up is the Socceroos won against Oman 3-0 at the Sydney Olympic Stadium. Mohamed was actually there when it happened, and we are now closer to qualifying for the 2014 Brazil World Cup. Woo! I'm going to be there for sure.
Yeah, the Socceroos, they were also missing some key stars such as Cahill and Harry Kewell. So they did pretty well with it. They've got a decent side, but let's just say that their category of teams isn't the best. Like we mentioned, Saudi Arabia, Oman, and there was one more country.
Oh, yeah, we were saying that. Australia has it quite easy getting into the World Cup, seeing as the other people we versed was Thailand and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
We just had a friendly with Malaysia and beat them 5-0. I mean,
Why are all the Muslim countries struggling? Jeez.
That's right. Their populations as well are so much larger. I mean, you should be able to pick the best. I don't know. Why is there such a big gap?
I think soccer's a much more common... It's ironic. Soccer's a much more common sport in those nations than Australia. Soccer in Australia is like... it's third or fourth preference.
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
AFL, your rugby league, your union.
NRL will probably be number one, I guess.
Exactly.
On telly, anyway.
So, to all our Muslim teams out there, pull your socks up, literally and metaphorically, and kick some Socceroos' butts, if I can say that.
Yeah, that's not to say that we don't go for the Socceroos, Mohammed.
Yes, we sure do. But it's good to see some, Muslim countries dominate the infidels.
Show some support for your country, son. We should be saying we should be getting more Muslims into the Socceroos, man.
The Y Factor.
All right, wacky news then. Imagine you had to pay $4,851 on a pair of shoes. Well, thankfully, you are not a huge giant like brother Ibrahim Taqiyullah from Morocco, who has the largest feet in the world. The guy is as tall as
246 centimeters.
246 centimeters. He's a massive,
That's huge.
lanky guy, mashallah.
He just got the record from the Guinness Book of Records, right?
Yes, he does.
Mashallah.
That guy would need some pretty big socks.
That's amazing. You know what? For I guess my age, I have large feet, and I struggle to find shoes. I can't imagine this. My fellow brother, I empathise his pain at going to purchase shoes.
Man, for 4,851, I would make my own pair of shoes, or I would buy a ticket to fly somewhere, overseas, and buy myself several pairs of shoes for that size. I'll custom make them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's custom made shoes.
That's right. Okay, so next up is a self-proclaimed superhero could be charged over an alleged pepper spray attack on revelers heading home from a nightclub. If you check out what this guy is wearing, man, he looks like Spawn, doesn't he? Like the character Spawn, except he's got gold instead of red, and he's got like a sort of leather bodysuits and stuff.
Yeah, it's like a more colourful version of Batman without.
It looks like he has a goatee as well.
The Y Factor.
Anyway, next up, a meteorite landed on the roof of someone with the last name of Comet. So, what are the odds? A meteorite plunging to Earth lands on the roof of a Mrs. Comet.
Well,
that's pretty funny. Next up is a bear attack gets ugly. A woman used a bow and arrow to fight off a bear which was mauling her hunting partner.
Ouch.
Yeah, keep your bows and arrows handy,
That's right, and remember it's also a sunnah.
Yeah.
It's also a sunnah, so any kangaroos in our Australian context that come to attack you, just aim for the head.
Or koalas. I actually got scratched by a koala once.
Koalas are harmless.
No, they're nasty creatures.
They're teddy bears. They're not nasty.
They look cute, but they're really evil on the inside.
But dangerous.
Okay.
Silent but deadly.
Another awesome story that I was reading was, did you know that dwarf tossing was a national sport in Australia?
Dwarf tossing?
Like dwarf tossing, like tossing small people, the midgets.
Yeah.
Tossing them was actually a sport in Australia.
Never knew that.
And now there's this article saying that, we should bring back dwarf tossing because, all these people lost their jobs. We're talking about like the dwarfs themselves are filing the complaint because that was they got paid for it.
That was their income, yeah. That's honestly that's absurd and like ridiculous. But coming from Australia, it's understandable.
Yeah, we tend to take the piss out of everything.
It's like in front of football. It's like, yeah, just catch this person. They're human beings, for goodness sake.
The Y Factor.
Another hilarious story is 2 are now in hospital after having the hottest curry competition. So 2 guys battled it out to eat the hottest chili. Hottest chili eating contest.
And how ironic, they were of Indian descent.
Yeah. No, wait, were they? It says it was an Indian restaurant has been told to cool the world's hottest chili eating contest after entrants were left in agony and 2 ended up in hospital. I actually tried the world's hottest chili at the Easter Festival. It was awesome. It was so hot it made you high. It was, I've never tried any drugs before, but that's probably what drugs would have been like because it made you so high. But about half an hour later, it felt like my insides were melting, man. And my friend from Malaysia, right? Malaysians should be used to chili. He was crying, and man, he was like, he could feel it in his ears. And he was saying, "Man, it's so good, man."
I love when our subcontinental brothers try to eat Arab food.
Yeah,
I just love it because they have like 1 portion a day. We eat about 10 times a day.
Yeah, that's true. That's probably why we're all so fat. Okay, well, if you want to check out some more stuff, then just Google search Wacky News. There's some hilarious stories on there. And there's some interesting ones too, like an invisibility cloak being invented in the United States.
Okay, Jamel, that's enough on your part because I know you'll keep ranting on about your fetish of weird stories from around the world.
It's interesting stuff, man.
It's not interesting. It's ridiculous. It's absurd, preposterous, downright, Something else outrageous is another good term to describe your fetish. Anyway, moving on. To some sad news now. If you didn't hear, there was a brother who passed away. His name was Bilal Rad. He actually drowned in Wollongong. Allah yarhamu. So our condolences and our prayers go out to him and his family. And it's always a good reminder for the community. I mean, not at the expense of his life, like with all due respect to him, mashallah. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mercy on his soul.
Ameen.
But it's a good reminder on our part to learn the art of swimming because it is a sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm not sure exactly about the details regarding his death, But inshallah, we can all use it as a reminder for ourselves. And, life is very short. And if you can learn how to swim, because you could be, fishing with your family on a boat or enjoying a picnic on the beach. And then all of a sudden, a great day can turn very tragic very quickly.
Yeah, take care where you go. Swim between the flags.
The Y Factor.
Okay, so we're going to do something now unprecedented that hasn't been done before on a Y Factor. I'm going to call someone live right now in the studio and put them on the phone and put them on the spot. So here we go. I'm going to call Brother Hisham, who's the president of MUMSA, or the Macquarie University MSA. They currently have their IAW. So I'm going to call him now and put him on the spot. Jamel had to shoot out, but I'm going to trial this out. Let's see how we go.
Hello, Hisham speaking.
Assalamu alaikum, Hisham. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, alaikum salam. How are you?
Not too bad, Akhi. It's Mohammed from the Y Factor. Welcome to the show.
Oh, what a surprise. How are you, Brother Mohammed?
Not too bad. You're kind of live on air, so did I catch you at about time, or can you speak?
Oh, brother, I'm not prepared for this. Yeah, inshallah, I should be right.
Fantastic. So let us know what's happening. Currently, you have IAW at your week. How's it going?
Look, alhamdulillah, it's going very well. It's been well received, across campus, and everyone's sort of coming over and asking us a few questions, and we're happy to answer anything. So we're just delighted that it's been received so well, and we're getting so many curious people coming up, and big thanks as well to My Piece. They've given us their banners, Jesus, a prophet of Islam, and so forth. The controversy is creating a lot of interest, alhamdulillah.
Fantastic to hear. And so your theme for this week, this year, essentially was the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. Why did you choose the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Is there a strategic reason why?
Look, there's strategy behind everything. The reason we did it was basically the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is in the spotlight a lot these days, and we feel that as Muslims we should do something, not necessarily to defend his honor, because I don't think he's one that needs defending. It's more to show the love and to show people the seriousness in which we take the Prophet ﷺ. So that's sort of what we're doing this week, and people are coming up and asking all these questions, and all our talks are sort of based around that. And it's going very, very well, and that's sort of the reason behind it, just to show the love and commitment, and attempt to carry on the legacy which he left behind, really.
Very well said. And finally, if people want to know more about MUMSA's IAW, where can they go to find out?
So they can go to mumsa.org.au, or they can just sort of search for the Macquarie Uni Islamic Awareness Week on Facebook. Although there's something, if you don't mind me, just sort of using this as an advertising space. We've got a talk coming up on Friday at Lakemba LMA Function Centre, and it's by our dear Sheikh Bilal Ismail, who's from South Africa. He's going to be coming out here, and he'll be giving a talk, inshallah, called The Prophet ﷺ. If the Prophet ﷺ was here today. And that'll be at 7 p.m. and it's open to the public, brothers and sisters, and Sheikh Mustafa Davis will be joining him as well. Sheikh Issam was meant to join him, but unfortunately his father's fallen ill overseas, so if everyone could make dua for him, he had to go and attend that. But inshallah, this Friday, 7 p.m, so make sure everyone's there, inshallah.
Inshallah, and we'll be posting that information on our Facebook page. Hisham, thank you very much for your time, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for your efforts.
Brother, I just wanted to say something just before I go.
Yeah.
The guys at Y Factor, we love you all, and you guys are doing an excellent job, and I just think everyone should have this segment put in their diaries every single week, the Thursday. Know that between Maghreb and Ishaa, the Y Factor is on. Okay, and this is the station, this is the segment to listen to. There's nothing better than this. It beats anything else, The Edge, Nova, whatever. This puts it on it.
Oh, Hisham, look, mate, hey, I'll pay you the $100 tomorrow, inshallah, yeah, just for that spill.
Please, Mohammed, please.
Okay, no worries, inshallah. Thanks a lot, Hisham, for your time. We'll talk to you soon.
Now we'll go to the feature on the Y Factor on 87.6 FM.
Stay tuned right after the break. We'll be right back.
Right back.
Back.
I used to live a life alone, living it just for me, and I had no idea this life would judge my eternity. I look at myself and I wondered who created me. I had to open my heart and open my mind, and and open my eyes to see. Open my eyes and see the existence of what's surrounding me. It's more than just chance.
Welcome back to the Y Factor. Now to our exclusive interview. So over the long weekend, Benevolence Australia hosted international guest, photographer and filmmaker Mustafa Davis. Now the US Muslim, who is a convert, was one of 5 contemporary Muslim artists in the panel discussion at the State Library of Victoria, discussing the controversial topic of faith and art. Among the panelists and guests were comedian Amir Rahman from the Fear of the Bound Planet, graphic designer and photographer Peter Gould, and MC Susan Carland. Our correspondent Nadine K flew all the way down to Melbourne to get us all the latest, as well as an exclusive interview with Mustafa Davis himself, also jokingly known as the Lyfe Guru. So here, have a listen and enjoy.
The Y Factor.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, this is Nadine. I'm in Melbourne today talking to the very talented, very wise Lyfe Guru himself. Welcome Mustafa Davis to the Y Factor.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. It's a pleasure to be here.
How have you liked Australia so far? How's it been?
I just got in this afternoon, but I love it because this reminds me a lot of the Bay Area where I'm from, in California.
Are you have anything that you specifically want to do while you're here in Melbourne?
Just meet people and hang out.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about the tour that you're currently on?
Sure. So I left America. I left California, San Francisco on September 3rd, and I headed to Malaysia. It's a U.S. State Department tour where I'm going around teaching film workshops, photography workshops, and screening some of my films and talking about multiculturalism and religion in America. So I started off in Malaysia, went all around Malaysia, then Singapore, and then I just flew in from Indonesia, and now I'm doing Melbourne here for 4 or 5 days, then off to New Zealand, and then back home.
MashaAllah, that's a lot of countries in a few weeks.
22 cities and 5 countries in a month.
MashaAllah. Most people won't get to see that in their lifetime. Do you run many workshops like this back in the States?
I do. I have several workshops that I do. I do a one-day workshop, which is kind of what I'm doing here. I do a weekend workshop, and I do a one-week workshop. And now I'm actually founding a film school that's going to be an ongoing 3-month film program.
Fantastic. And being on tour so long, what do you miss most from home?
My wife and kids.
Okay, so everybody's dying to find out, how did you get the title Lyfe Guru?
So Lyfe Guru is actually, it's satirical. I spent several years studying overseas and was kind of disheartened when I came back to find that, you know, some of the students, the Muslim students of knowledge that went over and learned a little bit of Arabic, studied maybe 6 months, a year, or 2 years, came back and they started giving themselves titles like Sheikh and giving themselves titles like Ustad. And so I use Lyfe Guru as kind of like a mockery. And so I just thought of the most outlandish title, biggest title that I could give myself, and I just figured a guru of life in general would be the biggest one. So it's actually it's a mockery of people who kind of self-proclaim scholars that aren't actually qualified for it yet. And so it's kind of like satire just to kind of encourage us to maybe not do that as much as it's going on now.
And on the discussion today, you were talking about the importance of knowledge and education. Can you express to our youth audience why you feel that?
Yeah, because I think especially as an artist, because typically art is looked at by the Muslim community as something that it's like an either or fallacy. Either you do Islam or you do art. And so I felt that the best way for me to challenge that was to actually embody both myself, to get a very minimal basic understanding of Islam and of Sharia law, and then to use that in my life and to also create good art. And so, you know, without that, you might be crossing boundaries that you don't know that you're crossing. You might be doing things that are displeasing to Allah that you're not aware of. Or worse, people might be able to dissuade you from doing art, telling you that you're doing something wrong that might be in fact permissible and beneficial, but you leave it because you didn't have the knowledge background to fall back on.
You know, that's really important. That's what the talk was all about today. And the controversy of art, and yet it's such a beautiful thing. How do you think people should go about, if they want to do this, what should they be doing?
Again, I think it all starts with the foundation in knowledge. To get at least a basic foundation in knowledge, find qualified scholarship that speaks to you. It doesn't just mean pick any sheikh out there that has a long beard and speaks Arabic. Find someone that speaks to you and your experience, understands your cultural nuances of where you're at. And if you have it in you that you want to do art, pursue it. You know, we can't deny who we are for very long before ourselves rebel against us. And that happens to a lot of people, especially living in Islam in a Western context, whether it's Australia or England or the United States. The issue of culture and religion is very confusing to people sometimes. And a lot of times the debate about art is actually just cultural preference, and it's not necessarily Islam. So for example, I might like impressionistic painting, and someone else might like calligraphy. But because I like impressionistic painting, I'm going to tell you that calligraphy is not good. And then they base that within this context of Islam, when it's not. It's really just preference. So, for an artist that wants to be an artist, Islam encourages art. It's historically has celebrated art, and it's not something it's not the antithesis to Islam. It's not an either or dichotomy. You can be an artist and you can be an upright Muslim. They're one and the same.
So it's not about going out and finding a sheikh that follows what you believe, trying to work around it. It's about completely understanding the knowledge of it all.
Yeah, and I think, you hear this a lot too. The people are criticized, I got criticized once they said, you follow scholarship that agrees with what you believe in. And I said, as opposed to what? Choosing scholars that I don't agree with what I believe in. So that's again, it's another fallacy in the discourse. You should choose scholarship that speaks to you, speaks to your understanding, speaks to your background, speaks to your cultural practice. But they have to be qualified scholars. It's not just where you go shop around for opinions, and you kind of like piece them from different scholars till you get the opinion that you want. You still have to have a foundation in knowledge, and you still have to follow rightly guided scholarship. But again, those scholars should speak to your experience, of course.
So now you've got tonight the screening of Dean Tight, the documentary. It can be deemed a little controversial. Can you describe firstly what is Dean Tight?
Dean Tight is a film that is constantly being categorized as a film about Islam and hip-hop and the permissibility and impermissibility of music. And although those elements are in the film, that's not what the film's about. The film is about a group of Muslims living in the West trying to reconcile their culture and their religion. Their culture being Western culture, which is a postmodern culture, and their religion, which is a pre-modern religion of Islam, which has very heavy Eastern cultural undertones, and it's about them trying to get the two to fit.
What was your aim for the actual filming then? How did you come up with the idea? What did you hope to achieve from it?
Originally, I wanted to make just a short film, a 10 to 15 minute piece with some of my friends that I knew that do hip hop, and they said that they did it for da'wah, to proselytize the religion. And I thought that this was a positive thing, to approach the youth by speaking the language that the youth are speaking today. But when I started filming, I realized that there was some trepidation and some confusion even amongst the artists themselves whether or not they should or shouldn't be doing it. So I said I wanted to explore this a little bit more to get into the issues. And I actually put both sides of the debate in the film. But my goal with this film and with any other film that I do is not because I have an agenda or a point that I'm trying to prove. I'm a storyteller, and so I just like to tell stories. So that's the goal of this film, is just to tell this story in the best possible way I could.
That's something that I was thinking about during the discussion. You said that you're a storyteller. How does that take away from your own art then? How is it your art if you're telling somebody else's story? How do you define that?
Because I don't believe in objectivity in art. There's this constant debate within the filmmaking community and the artistic community in general about art needing to be objective. But I'm not a journalist, and so I don't have the same ethical codes that journalists live by, where you have to present an issue as it is from both sides. As soon as I choose a subject, that's a subjective choice.
The Why Factor.
Now I see why they call him the Lyfe Guru. MashaAllah, he's definitely a talent indeed. Now, after the actual interview with Mustafa Davis, Nadine also caught up with some famous names in the Melbourne Muslim community, as well as a few up-and-coming names in the Muslim arts scene.
Assalamualaikum, it's Nadine here, and we've just finished the panel discussion of the Mustafa Davis tour in Melbourne, and I've got Amir from Fear of a Brown Planet. How did you find it?
I think it was fantastic. It was really, the audience was great. The other panelists were great. It was a really good discussion.
Did you like being on the panel? Was it something new for you, or have you done this before?
Never. Mustafa Davis was asking me, whether people talk like that. I said, to be honest, we really haven't had a forum like that, ever. I've been in Melbourne for a long time, and we haven't had an honest, really heartfelt discussion like that about art and what makes us do art. And it was really, really nice.
And how do you think comedy contributes to art as in Islam?
Really, comedy is just this is a different type of public speaking. You know what I mean? It's a way of speaking your opinion and in a way that people enjoy. And yeah, that's why I love doing it, because it really just lets me talk about what I believe in, and it's less boring than a speech.
And we won't exactly be able to be the youth that can go home and say, as you said, I'm going to go out and make a living making jokes. How have you found that? How can you advise the youth into following their dreams, even though it might be something that's not always accepted?
I would say that basically, if you know there's something that you love and you really want to do, no matter how hard it is, if you don't do it, you will be miserable. That's really what I found, is that every time I tried to do something normal or, you know, some regular kind of job. Like, it just made me so miserable. So at the end of the day, even if you maybe don't have as much money or, you know, your community doesn't think it's the greatest thing, at the end of the day, you know, like, it's your choice whether you want to be happy or sad.
Do you feel like you can still strongly contribute to the Muslim population, or that you don't have to, or that what drives you in this field?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely what I want to do, and I hope I have been doing, but, you know, either way, it's what I love, you know, it's what I love, and it's what I think makes people happy, and that's really why I do it.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum guys, it's Nadine and I'm speaking to Susan Carland here after the Mustafa Davis tour. We just had the panel discussion. Susan, what did you think of the turnout?
The turnout was fantastic. When there's people standing up the back of the room, when it's standing room only, that's a good sign.
And what did you think of the actual talk and the interaction and stuff?
I think it was really good. It was good. There were very different things said by the panellists, which I think is good. We didn't want everyone to be agreeing with each other. We wanted to have some, you know, healthy debate, and I think important issues were coming out. There were some people crying in the audience, and I think it shows these are conversations we have to be having and we're not having. So I hope that this is at the beginning of more of the same.
Right. So what do you think is the most important thing the Muslim youth here in Australia could take away from these discussions? What's the most important thing we could gain from these talks?
I think that Islam is wide enough to accommodate them in their dreams. I think so often all they hear is everything is haram. No. Islam is a religion of no. And I hope that they come away from this going, I can pursue this, and that doesn't make me a bad Muslim.
Alhamdulillah. Thanks so much.
No worries.
Okay, I've got Samaya here, guys. Assalamualaikum, from Crooked Rib Art down in Melbourne, which is a fantastic art-run youth cause. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's actually just a youth collective made out of, an artist collective made out of 10 girls. And so we're all individual artists, but we work together. Sometimes we produce work as a whole. Sometimes we do exhibitions on our own. And we're currently actually running youth workshops. So art workshops for young female Muslim women once a week.
So what are you hoping to achieve from these?
So the end product is actually that they will create an art piece for exhibit, but really it's just to kind of encourage the arts in young Muslim women and those that are really keen on it, to give them the skills, artistic skills, to express themselves and to discuss issues that they might not be able to any other way.
Do you find that you have people coming through that are not necessarily artistic but still need that form of expression?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes people that just love art and they say, oh, I'm not really an artist, but then when they start, you see that they really get into it and they get to express themselves in a way that they might not have done before.
How long will the project be finishing now? When's the next exhibition for Crooked Rib coming up?
Well, the next exhibition will be a collaboration between these young girls. They'll have their own and we will as well, and that's in April, I think it is. Yeah.
So we hope that all of Sydney will be down here to see it.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Naya.
No worries.
I've got Fatima Mouaz here, director of War, an adaptation of one of Khalil Gibran's poems, and she's currently working on
Fighting for Air. It's a short boxing film.
And how's that going?
It's going good. We're in the post-production process of that, so slowly but surely.
How do you like, you were saying on the panel that you were discussing today with Mustafa Davis that filming and filmmaking is a complete art form, that you need to be highly involved. How does the process go for you?
Obviously, the process is broken into different stages. There's pre-production, which is when you write and think and develop ideas, and production is when you actually shoot, and post-production is when you edit and create music and grade and things like that. But every single bit of that process involves your entire physical body being present and able in a way.
And what's the toughest part about creating these films in Islamic society and in the wider society of Australia?
Staying original, staying edgy and staying true.
And what's your most favourite thing that you've worked on and why?
I think it has to be this latest story. It's hopefully going to be very controversial and going to get people thinking and talking. And it was just, a lot of adrenaline was running through my body as I wrote it and saw it performed and things like that.
So where can we hear about this more? When can we watch out for when it will come out? Where do we see you?
You'll see it at the ACME, the Australian Centre for Moving Image in Fed Square on the 8th of December. Melbourne.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I've got Sarah here from one of the audience members from the Mustafa Davis tour. What did you think of the event?
I thought it was awesome. It was really great to just see Muslims having an avenue to express their opinions about art.
And what do you think you gained from this discussion, or what do you think the community can gain from discussions like these?
Because it's something that's not very it's something very rarely discussed. I feel like having this opportunity is just really beneficial for everybody, and it brings out a lot of issues that otherwise might not be talked about.
Where do you think the controversy lies in art and Muslims? Where do you think people should draw the line, or where do you think the problems are?
Oh, that's a big question. Where do I think the controversy is? I think that comes from very cultural values. Like, people have certain things that they deem offensive or inappropriate, and some of that is also comes from Islamic tradition. But I think the controversy is usually more to do with culture. Where the line is, I think, really depends on who you are and what you're talking about and how you're talking about it. So it's a really big question, yeah.
And art in general, are you involved in it, or what made you want to come and experience this?
Well, a lot of my friends were on the panel, so I wanted to come and hear what they had to say.
So you are highly involved in art then?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. Tell us about
I'm a member of Crooked Rib Art. We're an art collective in Melbourne.
Are there any closing words?
I think what you guys do is awesome, and keep it up.
The Y Factor.
Many thanks to Nadine Cannon, our state correspondent for the Y Factor, for that fantastic interview with Mustafa Davis and those wonderful vox pops from the Melbourne Muslim community members. And that's a very interesting little taste of the social fabric of the Melbourne Muslim community. Anyway, back to Sydney, and our Islamic investment segment is right after this short break with Issam Eid from Crescent Wealth. Don't go anywhere.
So how could you deny? How can you deny the oneness of Allah? Allahu Akbar. How can you deny the oneness of Allah? Allahu Akbar. How can you deny the oneness of Allah? Allahu Akbar.
We are fortunate today to have with us Issam Eid from Crescent Wealth, who's here to talk to us about Islamic investments. Assalamu alaikum, Issam, and welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam, Mohammed. Thank you very much for having me on your program.
Not a problem. So firstly, tell us about Crescent Wealth. What is it about?
It's a good question, and I'll actually go back one step. As your listeners would be aware, in Australia we have a system called superannuation. So it's compulsory on every worker that 9% of their salary or income will be taken out of their pay and put into a superannuation account for their future retirement. So as you start work, 9% of your pay will go into a fund, which is usually a fund selected by the company you work for, and that money will be invested on your behalf, and then inshallah by the time you get to 65, there'll be a pool of money there that you can retire on. So the government is actually trying to make people more self-sufficient in their retirement, so they won't have to rely on the pension as much. This is like, at the moment, this system in Australia has almost over $1 trillion worth of assets.
Wow.
So subhanAllah, it's been a very successful initiative by the government, by the Keating government back in the early 90s when they came up with this initiative. Now, the problem that I see when I was actually looking at my superannuation account 2 years ago, I was thinking, well, you know, I've heard about Sharia investing, all this Sharia, the growth of Sharia finance globally. And I thought, okay, great, you know, I actually want to actually invest my money in a Sharia compliant way. And my background is I've been basically a professional investor for my whole career. So I've spent 16 years in the industry investing money on the Australian Stock Exchange for a number of superannuation funds. And so I knew the industry pretty well in terms of inside out. I worked for Macquarie Bank, for ING, for Credit Suisse. So I had a conventional investments and finance background. But when I looked in terms of where I could actually put my personal super from a Sharia perspective, there was actually no options in Australia. Even though we've got over $1 trillion worth of savings, even though we're the fourth largest savings market in the world, there is no Islamic investment options in Australia. So that sort of inspired me to look into this a lot more closely. And with my fellow directors who are like-minded, both Talal Yassin and also Samir Danda, and we sort of sat down and thought, well, you know what? The community needs this option. Whether they take it up or not, at least they need to be provided with the ability to select Sharia-compliant investments for the superannuation. Because, as you know, when you actually get back into your deen understanding, you actually start to worry about where your rizq comes from and where has it been invested. So that's what sort of inspired us going back 2 years ago to actually get involved in creating Crescent Wealth. So the first ideal that we have is to provide our fellow Muslims with an option. And it's not only to fellow Muslims. I mean, when you think about Islamic investing, it's almost like an ultra-ethical investment option. So you ban things like businesses which are involved in activities which are haram, so pornography,
gambling, alcohol,
gambling, finance, like conventional finance and lending. So when you look at it, it can also appeal to a broader Australian society. And one of the companies who have role modeled or we use as a role model is a group in America called Saturna Capital. They started back in the 1980s, and they were actually focusing on Sharia-compliant equity investment, so investing in shares in a Sharia-compliant way. When they first started, they only had like $20 million US, and now, mashallah, they've got over $3 billion.
Wow. How long ago was that?
They started in 1986, and they really didn't start growing until 2000. And 90% of the people who invest with them are non-Muslims. At the end of the day, what they've managed to show is by running a professional investment firm and adhering to Islamic concepts, that the returns you receive over that period of time are better, or at least not, or equal to what returns you could achieve by investing in conventional products.
So it's definitely worth the investment.
Well, that's what they've shown. They've shown that as people, let's put it bluntly, people don't care where or how you achieve your returns. If they're good and you're consistent, deliver good returns over a long period of time, people don't care. They go, I don't care if you choose it, whether it's Islamic or it's Jewish or whether it's, you throw darts at a board and you pick the stocks that way. But if you can show consistent returns over a long period of time, people are prepared to back that, and that's what we've seen. So the aim isn't just the Islamic community. We're looking at the broader Australian community and offering them an ultra-ethical product as well. So that was the first motivation. The second and third things which we look at is superannuation sits there. It's a resource to be harnessed. What we want to do is ultimately allow the Islamic community to access its super in order to help it develop further. For example, we're looking at setting up a property trust which will invest in conventional property, like whether it's shops, warehouses or office blocks. Now, the way we've set up the fund is it also has the flexibility of investing in social assets. So as we accumulate more and more super through Crescent Wealth, we'll be able to invest in things like an Islamic aged care facility. We can actually fund that by ourselves by accessing our super.
Wow.
Islamic schools, Islamic hospitals if there's a need for it. So all of a sudden, you can actually make the community more self-sufficient without having to rely on government grants, without having to barak a lot to all the people who contribute, fundraisers. I mean, there's a pool of money sitting there which, if it's harnessed correctly, can actually help the community develop socially. So that's a second motivation. And then the third motivation is it's incumbent on the second and third generation of Muslims in Australia to start building Islamic institutions. There are a lot of Muslim brothers who come here and go, look, they study finance or do business, and then they go into the real world and find that it actually conflicts with what they believe in. I don't want to work for a bank because it's all haram. They're involved with riba. We need to start building Islamic businesses and institutions. So people, like when I first did finance at UTS back in the early 90s, conventional was the only option for me to go to. But I always wanted to do finance because it was what I was really interested in. But there's no Islamic options here. Whereas if we start building institutions and businesses, then we offer career choices for the next generation. So if we build Crescent Wealth into a successful financial institution in its own right, then fellow Muslims in the future and our kids and grandkids, if they ever want to enter that field, now have a viable option.
Brilliant points. You've sort of covered, the distinction between Islamic investing and conventional investing, unless you want to make a clearer distinction.
I will go into it a bit more clearer. What Crescent Wealth is focusing on is Islamic investments, not Islamic finance. So we're not offering loans to anybody. We found that a little more difficult to achieve, and we thought that there's already some institutions offering products in that space, like MCCA. So we thought we'd focus on investment wealth, and that reflects, I guess, our experiences where my background has been in investments, and we see it as a market that's totally unserviced and untapped at the moment. Now, with Islamic investing, just to make a few things clear, the way it works is that in terms of the share product, there's a couple of tests we run through. So the business test, which I touched on earlier, in the sense that any business involved in anything that's haram. There are limits to that. So, as we point out earlier, alcohol, tobacco, pornography, finance, they're sort of industries that are precluded. And then after that, there's also a financial screening test which the companies go through. So it looks at the amount of debt they have on their balance sheet, the amount of interest income they receive, and also what they look at in terms of what they call receivables test. So how much, like for example, if someone comes and buys something from me on credit, then I have effectively a debt that's owed to me by that individual, and they might pay me back after 30 days. So there's also a limit on how much of that they have on their balance sheet. So that's how we sort of screen the whole universe of stocks in Australia to come down with a list of stocks which are Islamically compliant. In terms of the other areas, like for example the property fund, what we'll be doing there is essentially we won't be borrowing money in that fund to invest. So it'll be 100% equity investment only. And then also we have to screen the tenants. So for example, if we buy a warehouse, we've got to make sure that the tenants in there are not involved in any haram industry. So for example, they might be a liquor distribution business. So they're the sort of tenants we would not allow to be in the fund.
It's reassuring to know that there are a lot of systems in place to ensure that.
Of course, we've had to appoint a Sharia advisory board who we have, and it's called Amani Business Solutions. And unfortunately, in Australia, there's not too many Islamic scholars that have a financial background. Yeah. So there's not many we could rely on here to provide us with, guidance in terms of what should and shouldn't be considered halal from an investment point of view. So we've appointed an international Sharia board with scholars from both the Middle East and also one scholar from Malaysia, because they're the two, major centres of Islamic finance at the moment. And the final area we're sort of looking at, we've got international shares we're looking at, but what we'll do is, where possible, we'll bring international managers to manage that money on behalf of our customer base. So we'll appoint managers who we think have the expertise to do that offshore. And the final thing we're working on is some sort of income fund. So like a bank account where people put money in and they get a return like interest, for example. What we're working on is a product where people can deposit money, but they get a return that's based on commodity murabaha, and therefore it's halal. So there's no, no more keeping the money under the bed mattress anymore. You can actually deposit and get a return. That's actually halal, inshallah.
Inshallah. Second last question. Do you think, from your experience, are you surprised at the Australian government's move into, the extreme endorsement and support of Islamic finance and investments, especially considering global events such as the global financial crisis? Are you surprised at all?
No. It's been, if you look at the financial industry as a whole, the fastest growing sector over the last sort of 5 to 10 years has been Islamic finance. There's now over $1.4 trillion worth of Islamic finance activity that happens globally. And Australia has zero of it, 0%. So a lot of it is happening in the Middle East, the GCC, and Malaysia. Malaysia has been the fastest growing Islamic market in Southeast Asia. So Malaysia is stealing our thunder to a degree, because even though Australia has a very sophisticated financial system here, and we've weathered the storm pretty well in Australia, we've missed that because there's no natural market that the Malaysians have. Obviously, it's an Islamic country and has more interest in that. But also in North America and also in Europe, you're seeing a lot of activity from an Islamic finance point of view. And I guess the government's looking at it and going, we need to diversify our financial sector. We need to capture part of this fast-growing sector in global finance. So, no, it doesn't surprise me that they've gone down this route. And, of course, the principles that underlie Islamic finance in terms of having low levels of gearing and having transactions based on assets as opposed to just money, it appeals to them as well, because it can be, like I said, a cure for all the ills we've seen from the GFC, like people overextend themselves through borrowing. In Islamic finance, these things are frowned upon and totally regulated. So there's no surprise that the Australian government's supportive and wants to actually promote it, because Australia is one of the largest financial markets in Southeast Asia, yet we have 0% of that activity globally that's going on.
Fantastic. And for more information, where can our listeners go to learn about Crescent Wealth?
You can go to our website on crescentwealth.com.au. On there, there's also obviously contact numbers if you want further information, you want to talk to somebody, that information is available there. We have our PDS for our first Australian equity product. And inshallah, as further products are developed, and they will be sort of brought forward in the next few months, and inshallah, we aim to have superannuation offering, hopefully, inshallah, in the new year, is Allah.
Inshallah. And we'll be posting a link to Crescent Wealth on our Facebook page. Issam, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. Thank you for your listeners' time. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. It's been a very action-packed episode. It's Mohamed here back on the mic to wrap up the program. I'm just going to run through some quick events for the week. And as Hisham mentioned earlier, the IAW main event for Mumsa, the Macquarie Uni MSA, is this Friday night, October the 14th, from 7 to 9 p.m. at the LMA Function Centre. It's titled If Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam Was Here Today. The two main speakers are the international guest speaker, Sheikh Bilal Ismail, and local Sheikh Mustafa Majdoub. For more information, go to Mumsa's Facebook page or type in IAW main event If Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam Was Here Today on Facebook. The other event is the third night of the World of the Unseen tour held by IDCA this Friday night also. So if you can't attend one in Lakemba, there's also another option in Auburn. It runs from 7:30 till 10 p.m. at Masjid Abu Bakr as-Siddiq at 361 Chisholm Road, Auburn. The speaker will be Abu Ahmed, and the topic is the real poverty. So for more information, type in The World of the Unseen, Night 3 on Facebook. And finally, just to let all our listeners know that we, myself, Amatullah and Tasneem, who are also members of the Y Factor, we attended the Sydney for Somalia fundraiser, which alhamdulillah was a huge success. They raised over $500,000 on the night. And we were swept up in the moment that we kind of pledged $1,000 on behalf of the Y Factor. And we thought, what better way to raise this money than to get our listeners on board and set up a fundraising drive for our brothers and sisters who are struggling with the extreme famine in Somalia. So essentially, we're going to set up a PayPal account. We're asking for $10 per person. So to all our listeners out there, $10 a person to the Y Factor, so we can make that pledge of $1,000 to be given to the Sydney for Somalia team, inshallah, to invest the money for overseas. We're going to set up a PayPal account soon, but if you can give more than $10 or would like to give your $10, please let us know on Facebook. Send us a private message or post a link or post a comment, on our page, and we will get back to you, inshallah. We really appreciate your support. We, the Y Factor, we're very community orientated, and we want you guys to jump on board with this, inshallah. So if you can get behind us with that, that'll be a huge help. And bismillah, we can help our brothers and sisters overseas in Somalia. Now, just finishing off, it's been a very exciting episode. We've spoken about Islamic investments, we've spoken about arts and culture, and art and faith and how Islam can tie in with that. We've spoken to an international guest speaker. We've had Hisham, a random call of Hisham. The news has been very interesting indeed. Jamal's enjoyed his little rant about his wacky stories. It's been a huge success, alhamdulillah. I thank you once again for your time. Thanks for your company. And that's the end of this week's episode. We look forward to your company same time, same place next week. Look out for the repeat this Sunday between Maghreb and Ishaa. If you missed today's episode, or if you know someone who has missed today's episode, as always, we encourage your feedback, and we'll keep you posted with all the links of today's speakers and their programs or companies on our Facebook page. So let us know what you guys think. Once again, thank you very much for your company this week on the Y Factor on 87.6 FM. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How can you deny the oneness of Allah? Allahu Akbar. How can you deny the oneness of Allah? Allahu Akbar.